When we are working with shell scripts, there is something which is very useful, and we should try to understand these three symbols, or I would say four symbols. Now, these are called redirectors because they redirect. They redirect the output or input. So, this is called single greater than redirector. This directs output of a command or a script to the file that to a file. Uh, so every time we did redirect the output with single greater than, it will create a new file or overwrite the old file. If I use double greater than, it will append to an existing file or create a new file if the file does not exist. This is called input redirector. When we give this input redirector, the command on the left hand side takes input from something on the right hand side. This is pipe. This is output of one command being taken as input of another command. So in my shell scripts, I've used this a couple of times. Now, when we talk about these redirectors, there's something also we have to understand, like what content do they redirect. These are called standard output redirectors. So whenever we run a command, so for example, say I run a command ls. Okay. Now this command was successful, so the output was given. So this output can be redirected to maybe a file. Let me say /tmp output. So the successful output of the command, please listen carefully. Successful output of the command will go to this temp output file. Say /tmp output. I can see the output of the ls command being pasted, being redirected here. Now, what if I say lsfff and it fails? Now, this is a see if I how to see the command status echo shift dollar question mark. Okay, it is 2. That means the previous command was unsuccessful. So the previous command ended in an error. Okay. So when we say redirector, let me say lsfff and say temp output, it gave an error. There's no output in there. I was expecting the error, but it is not there. So that's what I want to let you know, that using this symbol will only direct the output, not the errors. There's something which is, you know, which it is doing by default, is something called 1 and 2. Okay. So by default, when I say ls, and if I say 1 to output log, so 1 stands for output director and 2 stands for error. If I say ls2 temp output, I say cat /tmp output, there's nothing because there was no error. But if I do say ls any unknown command and unknown file and say to output, see, the error went to the file. So with these redirector symbols, you have to understand the meaning of standard output and standard error. So one stands for standard output and two stands for standard error. So in case you want to capture both of them, right? You don't know if a command will end in a success or in an error, right? So for that case, we have to just alter this command a little bit. We'll just say standard output, and then at the end we will say standard output with 2, which is the error, and 1. So I need error and output to the file. So tmp output. So in case if it errors, I see the errors. In case the command is success, it captures the success as well. Okay. So this is called redirector symbols. Okay. Now difference is pretty clear. Let me say ls slash temp output cat slash tmp output. I see that. So every time I use a single greater than symbol, it just creates a new file. But if I want to capture or append data and run this slash tmp output, I can see the entries are repeated here again. Okay. So that means it will append to the file. Instead of writing a new file, it will append to the file. You can see that this long Fedora workstation is twice. All the files listed are twice here. So this is standard error, standard output. How do we redirect them? And then we can also use them together. Now sometimes I'll show example of using standard input now. Okay. By default, whenever I run a command, it assumes as a standard input. But let me give you a specific example. For example, let me create a zip file here. Okay, so let me say gzip test file. Now sometimes we are on a server where storages are different. Okay, so maybe we have two different mounts and you have to bring a file from one mount to another mount and then unzip it. Okay, so that will be two-step process. So for example, let me consider two folders. Suppose currently I am in slash home and I want to send this file to tmp and unzip it. So the step would be cp test file, sorry, cp test file, sorry, slash tmp. Okay, cd slash tmp and then gunzip test file. Okay, so this was a two-step process. I first copied and then I gzip. I could use this command to actually do in one step using the input and output redirector at the same time. How? Let me first remove this file. rm test, sorry, rm test file. Okay, the command is g unzip, take input from test file and write output to slash tmp. Okay, let me give some, I have to give a name here, test file. Okay, so in one go it actually unzipped the file. So this is how I can use input redirector in combination with output redirector and reduce the number of steps. So these are some examples. The last thing is pipe, which is thing I've shown many examples, but just to repeat, pipe uses output of previous command as an input to the next command. So for example, I can use two commands, say ls, and I want to find files with the name, say I would say data. So grep data. So I can find, so output of ls became input to grep. Okay, so this is pretty simple and very commonly used here.